What up, world? It's your boy J Lip. You know what this is. You know who I am. Thinking Out Loud Podcast, TOL Podcast.com. And this is Talk That Talk Tuesday with your boy J Lip and Mrs. Lip in the building. The first video cast that we've ever done. Thank you, baby, for joining in on this. You look so beautiful.
Oh, thanks, Betty. Sweet.
Hey, I know. I'm a good guy. I'm a good catch. Meanwhile, let's jump into these topics. Let's get in and out. The first one I want to dive into is it was a lot of people out here that was caping. I ain't gonna mention no names, Levi, but it was a lot of people out here caping for Tyrese when he was going through his issues or his supposed issues to try to get back custody of his daughter, going through the shenanigans with the legal system, talking about how he's broke and he needs help from his millionaire and billionaire friends. And what more do you want from me? I was there for you. Be there for me. And then come to find out, even in the video, and if you pay close attention, he's like, I'm just doing this. This is my only child, my daughter. And then he says, and I got a son on the way, of course, but he's not born yet. Well, come to find out, that was a lie. His wife was never pregnant. He came out and said it himself. Also, he came out and said that he's not broke, that he's partying up in Abu Dhabi and about to travel to South Africa and Cape Town and all these other ventures self funded because he's not and never has been broke. So, with all that being said, Tyrese, you sound like a damn devil, damned ass fool. What's going on and what's your perspective, babe, on what Tyrese was doing and what he was saying and how he was trying to manipulate the people?
My only question is, what's your end goal here? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? You go live on Facebook umpteen times. Every time you go on, you got a different story about how you're in dire straits and then you got some help. And then, where's my cook? And then, I got money, but I don't got a kid coming. And what are you trying to accomplish? Like, you're not garnering any sympathy. If anything, people are just thinking you're just batshit crazy, man. You just completely lost it. And it's like, what are you trying to gain from this? Either from your fans or people that you want to be your fans, because your fans think you're insane and probably are a little embarrassed to be a fan, and people who don't know you are like, who is this guy? What
I agree with you, but you said what is there to be gained? What there is to be gained is sympathy and really empathy from those who are like, damn, like he can't even see his daughter. Like, how dare she, the mother of the daughter, his ex-wife? How dare she keep this man from his daughter? How dare she put a restraining order out there? Like, we're
so
looking at him as a victim.
this question is because I feel like when Tyrese came on, like, originally the issue was, yes, I can't see my daughter, I'm going through this custody issue, blah blah blah. And
Right,
then really it came about money and how can my friends help me.
right.
So you said that you got money from your friends to help you, and then you come on recently saying, oh, I was never broke.
You said I was
So
never broke, but you also lied about the Smiths. Like, my man's held the phone up to another phone to take an Instagram picture, which always boggles my mind. I don't understand how people can hold a phone up like me, just like, look at this, and it's a picture of something of somebody that I'm on the phone with, but I took the picture with a different phone, so I got two phone setups. Like, come on, my guy, like, be
well, I
yourself.
told you it looked fishy the way he had Jada's name saved in his phone. Like,
Right, Jada Pinkett
her
Smith,
whole name,
the actress.
the actress. Like, who
Right.
even does that? Especially
Right.
y'all are real friends.
Right.
Give
You
me a break.
wouldn't. Yeah, I don't put TL Yarncrafts or I don't put
Tony Lipsy, my
Tony.
wife. Like,
Exactly.
nobody does that. Nobody puts a qualifier on the name of somebody that they actually know in their phone.
Absolutely.
Give me a
Absolutely. So the takeaway from that situation to me is let's analyze a little bit deeper on the end game, which you said was, the question is, what is the end game? To me, the end game is you've been exposed for being a fraud at this point. And I don't see how Tyrese can ever climb up out of the hole that he dug himself into. Point blank, period. At the end of the day, Tyrese was a very successful entertainer when it comes to
because I know one thing,
musicianship, when it
movie
comes to
producer.
movies.
If I was a movie producer, if I was casting movies, he would not be on any of my lists. Like I think if
Mm,
anything, he might have garnered some extra attention, but not the right kind of attention, especially if he's trying to get more work.
mm.
Like it just makes me wonder now that he's coming out saying I was never broke. Like, are you fronting? Like, are you really broke?
No,
Because now I'm starting to think if you weren't broke before, I'm starting to think you really broke now
no,
because you
no.
come out and say it.
Yeah, trips to Abu Dhabi and going to South Africa and saying that you're doing it on your own dime. He even made a statement saying that he done paid off his lawyers and his daughter's lawyers, of whom he's trying to gain visitation to have custody of. He's paying everybody, so he's got the bread. So you crying and you was slapping the damn Converses. He's just like, I just need some help. Like, nigga, you needed help. We
He's an
agree.
like I've been saying from the beginning, he is an actor. He
Okay.
is used to doing this, and he, I think it started out he was playing us. I think because we felt like we needed to pick sides, but I think in the end he kind of played himself because we were like, okay, now we don't know what to believe except the fact that you are completely crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
All we're left with now.
I agree. Now I will say this: any album, any movie, any TV show potential that he may have had,
Done,
zip zero.
done,
Stingy with De
done it all.
Niro. It's over for you, bro.
If he hasn't lost it yet, he will, and if he doesn't, it'll probably flop, whatever it is.
Nah, he ain't getting signed because he's unstable. And when he keeps on referencing this drug that he took, to me, in my mind, that is synonymous with somebody who goes off the rails on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then says, I got hacked.
Right.
No, you didn't get hacked, nigga. You was drunk. Or
Yeah.
maybe you was
And you
high.
said what you felt, or you were trying to be slick and trying to be funny, and it didn't play off. Like
What is that quote? Like a drunk man's words is a sober man's thoughts. Like,
yeah,
I feel like he said a bunch of mad wild shit, and saying that your wife is pregnant is not nothing to play with, especially in the culture we live in, where not everyone is even blessed and fortunate enough to have children, and you
yeah,
lying
yeah.
about it, talking about I got a son on the way. You made up you had a son on the way, my nigga. Like, no.
And has anyone talked to his wife? Like
We haven't seen his wife. I have not seen his wife on any social media,
me
any
neither.
responses from her, and I'm sure she knows nothing about what he's doing. I mean, even if you look at the video
Oh,
where he was twerking on his way to the
oh,
bedroom with the breakfast,
she's got to know. If
no,
we
she don't
know,
know. No, she don't know.
please
No,
give me
put
a
yourself in
break.
her. No, no, fuck that.
It's been
Put yourself in that perspective.
out.
Put yourself in that perspective.
What?
I said, put yourself in that perspective. If I
How would I
keep you,
not know? My
okay, you
husband was
upstairs sleep.
an actor, and his
You're
and
upstairs. You're
we're all
upstairs in the bedroom sleep, and I got my man's videotaping me with the camcorder while I'm talking about I cooked you this grandiose breakfast that I just
he might
picked
not
up
have
from
seen it.
Waffle House.
Gotta know by now what's going on because if she
She
hasn't,
might,
somebody around her has
she
seen it.
might, but she also would have to be putting him in jeopardy, and by putting him in jeopardy, she'd be putting the household in jeopardy by acknowledging, yeah, this nigga was bugging. Like, she can't
I'm
do
not saying
anything.
he's come out on social media, responded or anything. I just wonder what her response would be.
And we
I,
gon' wonder. I don't
I
think we'll ever
would
know. I don't think we'll
probably,
ever know.
yeah, which is a shame. Like it's, I mean, that's his wife. That's not even just his girl or like some girl he's shacking up with or whatever.
Right.
Like I feel a little bit sensitive when you literally drag somebody who's legally obligated to you, and just put their relationship out on Front Street and make allegations about whether or not they're carrying your kid like that. How does that my mind just keeps going back to how are you helping yourself?
Well,
What are you trying to accomplish here?
Well, talking about legal obligations, so we all know that recently we had three UCLA students that were caught doing some type of theft, allegedly, from a, what was it, a Gucci store or some
Yeah.
type of designer brand store in China where they were visiting, and they got caught, they got held up, they got stuck up, and then President Trump is claiming responsibility for freeing those three young men. And he put a tweet out. He said, I wonder if I'm going to be thanked for this. I wonder if those three young men are going to thank me basically for giving them their freedom. Similar to someone who feels like they just freed three slaves. So,
Yeah.
with
Well,
that
he
being
said
said,
like that.
So with that being said, I'm with you. Like I'm like, okay, I'm with the shits. You know what? I appreciate you, President Trump. Whatever you did, put in a good word. And there's speculation that he may have had very minimal involvement in them being freed from China. But regardless, whatever you did, we thank you. However, the controversy comes in when CNN wants to do a special interview with the father, LeVar Ball, of one of the sons that was actually brought back over, and saying that you know do I really owe Donald Trump an apology? Do I owe the president? Or I'm sorry, not an apology rather, but do I owe him a thank you? The
Yeah.
apology should come from the kids, which I think it did. I remember reading they apologized for their actions, young, dumb, just being on some bullshit, but they asked LeVar Ball, should you or will you thank Donald Trump formally for what he did for your son? And LeVar was like, why? Like,
No.
he didn't free me. He didn't get me out of no trouble. And my son already said what he said. The boys said what they said. So why do we have a president that's so thirsty for acknowledgement and attention and just for thanks? Like, is it that he knows he's so garbage that he needs every little crumb of acknowledgement? Like, what's going
No.
on with that to
I
you?
I think I think if he wouldn't have tweeted that out, he probably could have gotten the thanks regardless. Because I mean, we've heard before, especially I mean, with like hostage situations and before, like our presidents get involved to bring our citizens back to our country. That's their
True.
job. That's one of the things that they're responsible for. I think the issue comes is our president is so damn petty that instead of talking to this man and his family directly and saying,
Hmm.
"Hey, you got your son back," like here's the hoops we had to jump through, blah blah blah, and waiting for this man to say thank you one on one like a mature adult does, he took to Twitter, he took to social media, which for whatever reason, and I still don't understand why we as a country, we as a government haven't been able to shut him down. Like why this why this
Because
particular
we as a country aren't we as a country. We are a country, but we're not united. And there are people that celebrate that man. And there are people
and
that celebrate the
forward,
fact that he demands a thank you from the father.
they look forward to him baiting people in this country,
Yep.
people that he's supposed to be working with and for. They look forward to it. So he's basically baiting this man, saying, "I wonder if I'm going to get any thanks for this," knowing good and damn well that the answer is going to be no,
A
no, I'm not
big fat no.
now. And they want LeVar Ball to look like an asshole for the people who don't know him. They want him to look like an asshole for not thanking the president for getting his son out of a sticky situation overseas.
You know what I think it is? I think that Donald Trump feels like he needs to grasp at straws at any opportunity when it comes to getting support from the black community. And that's why you see these photos pop up of him having Steve Harvey at Trump Towers and XYZ. He got damn Don King looking like a damn fool online supporting this man. I think that Donald Trump is so disassociated from the real world when it comes to people of color that he's just pulling at straws like, I know
He
you
can't
know what I
connect with
did for you.
he can't connect to black people in any meaningful
I
way
think I think
because
he can. I think he doesn't want to. That's
he
not
does.
his
How would
demographic.
he? In what circumstance in his entire life, because we've basically seen his entire life at this point, in what circumstance has he ever connected with a person of color on any honest level?
I mean,
Give me one
for
example.
us to say on an honest level would be very subjective. What I will say is that he's
But
made many.
can you give me an example, like one that could maybe qualify?
Hell no.
Of course not, because he never has, and he never will because he can't. He doesn't have it in him. It's not in his background. It's not in his pedigree. And honestly, it's not a priority of his to connect with the black community. If anything, he wants to try and secure that vote because I promise you he will run for president again. As
Well,
much as I was like hanging on hope that he might get impeached, I don't think it's going to happen. And he's going to try and run for president again, and he wants the black vote. Fingers crossed, we're all kind of waking up to the fact that he's like a pretty shitty guy and like won't do this to ourselves again. But who knows? Like he's time after time after time is showing that either he needs to stage a relationship with a black person, or when he tries to do it genuinely, he just comes off looking like a jerk.
yep.
He's That's it.
Now we gonna put it on wax though. You said for the next 4 years. I want to know right now. Let's make a little wager. I think he's gonna get another 4 years. I think he's gonna be in there for 8. What do you think?
Uh, for a bit, I think he's gonna run.
What did you
And
just say? Wait, what?
I God forbid, man, we can't take another 4 years of this man. He's barely been in there a year, and he's just making a mess of everything. So, like, imagine it'll be what, a year in January, okay?
Right.
And imagine 7 more years of
Oh
this mess.
yeah, 7 more
Like,
years of fun, just living wild and free, and just whatever we feel, we just say it. And Marshawn Lynch, one NFL player out of hundreds that we decide to wake up while we taking a shit in the morning and say he should be kicked off the squad because he didn't kneel for the flag, while at the same time legislation is going through to get passed for healthcare reform, for tax reform, for
yeah,
net neutrality. I feel like I try to tell people this all the time. It's smoke and fucking mirrors. It's
yeah,
all a distraction.
it
Whenever
is.
he tweets, it's provocative and it's
Mhm.
inappropriate, so it can distract you and I from focusing on that. And all it does is trigger me and say, okay, let me get on BBC. Let me get on some
Right.
type of
Like that's
international news
actually
source.
happening.
You say it again,
Because
babe?
everyone overseas, no one overseas is distracted by all this garbage.
No,
Like,
not at all.
they
They
know what
don't care.
he's doing, they know what's going on with him. We're the ones that get distracted by the tweeting,
And that's the
and then
point.
all of the other junk that ends up being on our morning TV, our morning news stations. Like, I feel like without George Stephanopoulos, the world wouldn't know what the hell is
Shout
going
out to
on.
my man George. Good morning, America. Shout out to my
We wouldn't
man
know.
George.
Because I feel like in some ways, he's one of the few faces on morning television consistently that people are watching that is fully focused on the politics and what's
Yeah.
really happening in the White House and in our systems. Because it's almost like a sidebar with all of, like, the circus is over here and George is over here like, hey, pay attention, and nobody's getting it.
Well,
We're not
you,
seeing what's
you know what's the most fucked up about that, and this is kind of gonna dive into, and not kind of, but this is diving into our last point for this Talk That Talk Tuesday. You talk about these distractions, and we talk about the efficacy of the distractions, and it sounds like it's working because there are things happening in government that a lot of people, especially people of color, are not privy or aware of because we got the blinders on. We're looking straight ahead at, oh,
yeah.
XYZ was said, let's chase that, let's address that. Another tweet was said, let's chase that, let's address that. Then, with that, you still have the mix of the discrimination that's occurring, institutionalized when it comes to police violence, when it comes to violence within our own communities, blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah.
what we do to respond to that is we protest, we march. Does protesting and marching have the same efficacy that it had 50 years ago, 60 years ago, civil rights era, post Jim Crow era, the freedom era? What, in your opinion, is the status of marching and protesting in 2017? Are we doing a damn thing to change the status quo, or are we just out there getting news coverage to again distract from the real issues going on behind closed doors, behind the Iron Curtain?
Well, I mean, that's a really huge question. And my short answer is no. Marching and protesting does not have the same impact that it did in the 60s, the 70s, civil rights era. Um,
I
you know,
disagree.
that's fine. In the there have been situations throughout our history where marching and protesting were like a pivotal part of civic change, right?
Right.
um, but now I feel like it's all been kind of watered down. And I think that's one of the things that I blame social media. I do feel that
Okay.
I feel like there are a lot of instances where we've had opportunities to use our voice, to use our presence, to affect change, and we don't do it properly. We don't do it responsibly, and it
Nah,
makes.
explain that. You can't just make those statements. What do you mean by not doing it
I'll say, I feel
responsibly?
like every single one of us has a platform when it comes to social media to say something of importance, to stand for something, and to be known for something. And I feel like with hundreds of millions of people on social media and such a small percentage of them saying anything thought provoking, once you hit the streets, it's like, okay, who are you even, and what are you even seeing for, and why should I be listening to you? And are you just out here marching so you can put something on your Instagram stories? And like, what does this even mean?
Nah, you're being judgmental in that regard because
Can't be judgmental because I feel like there are enough people who literally go march for press coverage because our
you
country
don't
is
know that.
becoming,
That's no, you don't know
listen
that.
to me, listen to me, don't cut me off now. I feel like our country is becoming desensitized to the fact that there are cameras everywhere.
Okay,
And it's almost like we seek them out at this point. And I feel like that there are a percentage of people that go out for marches and protests because there are cameras. That's
a minority percentage. I agree. There are a small amount of people, but the small amount of people don't negate the fact that there's a larger majority of individuals who are out here protesting and marching to effect change. All
how
that the march and the
like
protest does is disrupt.
question is always my question is always
Hold on,
in
I'm sorry. Don't
I,
interrupt me. I'm sorry. Don't
oh,
interrupt me. I wasn't done with my statement.
excuse me. Go ahead. Excuse me.
So I raised my hand. Like I was saying, the marches and the protests, they're there to affect change through disruption. So if a march occurs on a main road, let's say a main street or highway, highway's a little excessive. You can't do that shit. But on a main road or street, if there's a protest and a march where it's blocked off because we're drawing attention to the injustices that those people are facing. And it don't even matter to me if it's people of color, people that follow Judaism, or people from another planet. At the end of the day, it's a tool that's used to say, you're going to stop what you're doing and pay attention to what's wrong with this society. And if you don't want to do that, you can turn around and find your best way home. But at the end of the day, we out here. We out here. Like, that to me is the effectiveness of change when it comes to protesting and marching. It's that visibility. Instead of people being at home commenting on CNN.com and Fox News and Reddit and all the other online sites, posting little Facebook sad emojis and all these reposts of sad stories of cats getting killed by the police, the marches and the protests are saying we getting up off our asses and we marching to show you we have the numbers and we have the people and we're tired and we're not standing for it no more. So we're going to stand for justice. That's what I see as a physical representation of combating the evil that is what's in our country right now and how people are being discriminated against.
I
Now,
completely agree. I definitely believe that there is space and opportunity for marching and protesting. What I struggle with right now, with kind of the state of it right now, is, well, what's next? You march and you protest. You get the end of wherever it is that you were marching to. With whom are you planning to speak? How are you planning to get the audience that you need to affect the change that you need? Because I understand you can take your passion to the streets with your very nice signs and your sweatshirts, but then what? Who are you getting in front of
oh,
who
now
can
you got
feel
to talk about
you?
sweatshirts.
What I'm saying is it's about more than sweatshirts and putting on comfy shoes so you can walk a couple miles. Like, it's, you can't just march. You can't just protest. There has to be an end game to it. You think about marches and protests that were happening in the 60s. We had leaders who were then saying, hey, I got 150 people outside. I need you to talk to me about how we're going to change this, or we're coming back tomorrow, and we're coming back the next day, and we're coming back the next day. Like, we were putting pressure on our leaders to say, okay, we're out here. Now, what are you going to do? Actually speaking face to face with people who can affect change for us. I don't feel like that part of the conversation is being had with marches. Now we're just hoping somebody comes out with a TV camera and someone influential happens to see it and calls us up.
You know what? I agree with you in a very small part on the fact that there was more integrity when it came to the due diligence of the marches and the protests in the past. Where, to your point, we went out today, we're going to go back out tomorrow, and we're going to go
Mm-hmm.
back out every day until we get a seat at the table of discussion.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. However, with social media, with the video cameras, with the cell phones, it expedites the process. You don't have to wait 40 days and 40 nights. God forgive me for the example. You don't have to wait 40 days and 40 nights of suffering to get your point across when you have social media. because it expedites it. It basically amplifies that voice. If people are taking pictures who aren't even part of the protest, you could be in a damn apartment building on the street and look down and take a picture of all the people, and it'll get posted on, CNN, Good Morning America, NBC. It'll get posted from the sheer fact that there's an impactful movement happening and it's
Well,
being
I
noticed.
think the awareness is definitely a part of it, but then after that, you have to get to the point where you're actually affecting change. Like you're
But
creating
what
an
do you want? Like, what do you
oh,
think
listen, you're creating
affecting
an
change
awareness
means?
by going out and protesting and marching, taking pictures, posting that on social media, saying your piece. You're creating the awareness, but there's a next step that you have to take to say, this is what's happening now, this is what I want you to do better, or this is why I want you to care about it, this is how I want you to use your influence to make sure these kinds of things don't happen again. I feel like that's the step
I,
that
f-
we're not getting
I
to.
feel like what you're saying is we can protest and march all day, but until we get the legislators involved, until we sit down with the state representative and our congressmen and our senate, and until we sit down with the people who actually can put in place change
Hmm.
judicially and legislatively, then we're doing it for nothing. And I don't agree with that because we got to get to that point. Enough protests and enough marches will get us there. But right
No,
now, we can't
no,
keep
just because you show up doesn't make a senator walk out of his office and say, I need to go talk to that young
again
man.
go
Like,
protest
that's
his
not how
house.
it
Go
works.
protest and march on his street.
Then you're going to get arrested because that's private
You
property.
can't
That's
arrest everybody.
they can beat everybody. Is that what
Oh
you
my
want?
god.
Like, come on. I
They
mean, let's
could.
be real about it, though. You have to
Okay.
go to people's place of work to say, hey, I want you to use your influence as my senator, as my representative to make these changes. You can't go harass this man at his house. That is not going to be effective for you. And if anything,
It's
your
not.
movement is going to have a black eye because
It's
they're like, oh, they're just like out here fucking messing with people.
it's
Like,
not
no,
harassment if you're doing it peacefully. If they
uh,
stand outside of the
it
mayor's
can be.
mansion and they have picket signs and they're saying, "Hear us, Black Lives Matter, stop injustice, police brutality," all of that is a peaceful demonstration outside of his home where he can't escape. Okay, damn. Well, that does sound like it's a bit aggressive. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's it's not sustainable. It does not garner any
Stop
support or
making me
love or
fuck up my own argument. I hate you. That's not what I meant, but
because
you're
if you
right.
think it through, you know that that doesn't work. What needs to happen is we need to I believe that for these kinds of movements, we do need to have effective leaders. If you think back to the movements that were influential in our past, we had leaders, unfortunately, some of whom who were sacrificed for their movements, but they were the ones who were able to put on a suit and go in front of these people and say, hey, the black community is aware of things that are happening right now and we need change and you're the person that needs to do it and here's how I'm going to work with you to make that happen. There's no way that we can just basically walk in circles with signs and say we want change now. That's just not how it works.
Well, point blank, period. We ain't gonna get no change right now in this moment on this episode of Talk That Talk Tuesday, because you ain't changing my mind and I ain't changing yours.
Oh
So,
god.
with that being said, it's your boy J Lip with Mrs. Lip. Thank you for joining us yet again with some very interesting and peculiar opinions, yet very insightful and very provocative. And we appreciate you.
Well, thanks anytime.
First video episode, man. Woo! We doing it, baby. Milestones. One step at a time. Thinking out loud. TOLpodcast.com if you want more. And I gotta shout out my wife, Mrs. Lip, TLYarncrafts.com for all of your crafting needs that have to do with yarn. Babe, you want to say anything? Give them some extra information on how to get at you and what you do.
You can find me on Instagram mainly, also on tlyarncrafts.com, and come check out some of the craft shows I'll be at through December.
Mm. Be a friend. Be a supporter. Just be there with us as we protest through this podcast. This
Great.
is Thinking Out Loud. Talk That Talk Tuesday. I love you. Thank you. I heard you say I love you. What? I love you too.
I love you too.
Ah, and what?
We out.
Ah, thank you, baby.
Yep. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Peace.